Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lowdown Podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Senior Lakers Insider for Clutch Points. And today on the show, we're going to be talking about the Quincy Olivari conversion that happened over the weekend and some of what went on there, and it continues to go on there. We're going to talk about the preseason now that it is finally over, and we are 48 hours or so from the start of the NBA season. And then, because it's Sunday, I will be taking your questions. A little bit of heads up. I am recording this or I am streaming this with the Dodgers game over there. So if you guys see me look over that way, it's for good reason. Go Dodgers. Please don't hurt me. All right. So the over the weekend, we did get a little bit of news. We got some Lakers news. We got a Quincy Olivari. Well, so first off, on Friday night, the Lakers got their asses kicked by the Golden State Warriors to the tune of 58 points. Apparently, saying that that's not okay on Twitter is a step too far, a bridge too far for Lakers fans. But the Lakers, I know this is incredible to believe, also didn't love that. Weird. So the Lakers don't love the back end of the rotation, I'm told. Know that it's something that they have to address over the course of the season because their margins are just way too thin. As it stands, they're going into the season, obviously, without Jared Vanderbilt and without Christian Wood. So those margins were already thin, and they got even thinner to the point now where if Rui Hachimura is not available, you're looking at like Cam Reddish potentially having to start or play long minutes. And that's not something that anybody is particularly comfortable with. He has regressed as a Laker. So, I know I'm very aware, and I was very aware at the time of the number of players from the actual Golden State Warriors rotation that were participating in that game. And the reason I didn't love the way that the Lakers lost, again, by 58 points, is because some of those guys, like I kept on hearing on Twitter, hey, it's not enough, or stop freaking out. These guys aren't going to play. You're never going to see any of these guys over the course of the season. And it's like, one, hopefully. Two, that's not necessarily definitively true. If the Lakers do have one or two more injuries, some of those guys at the end of the roster are going to have to slide into actual rotation minutes. They're just in that kind of a predicament right now. And I thought that game was very indicative of an offseason that the Lakers just didn't take very seriously. I just didn't think they had a very serious offseason. And I thought that was a perfect cherry on top of the offseason and preseason. And the Lakers, again, feel that like that was also kind of a exemplary of some of those same issues, again, that they themselves are aware of. And they decided that they wanted a better grouping of two-way players. So heading into that game, the Lakers' two ways were Armel Traore, who for some reason is untouchable in any of these things. I don't know that he knows how to play basketball. Colin Castleton, who played well in the G League, but every time he's played around other NBA players, looks pretty bad. I'm going to be honest. And then Christian Koloko, who the Lakers still aren't sure is actually going to be cleared to play basketball this season in the NBA. That's why over the weekend, I was actually at my daughter's soccer game, and I heard, that the Lakers are thinking about shuffling the deck there. and then, was driving the family to lunch while I was trying to speak to people about what they were thinking about doing. What I had heard that Saturday afternoon was that the Lakers were thinking about waiving Koloko, and because of his clearance status, and because of how long this has taken, and because there is some murkiness to what's going on there. But that, like, to be frank, they liked Koloko a lot more than they like Castleton. Koloko played in NBA games, started in NBA games for a Toronto Raptors team that, like, wasn't terrible, wasn't bad. So the Lakers essentially, were flipping a coin because, again, for some reason, Armel Traore is considered untouchable, and must be kept in the organization. For what it's worth, his little brother is coming into the draft this year, ironically, when the Lakers don't have a pick, but he is considered a high lottery talent. But the Lakers basically made the decision to move off of Colin Castleton, which surprised some people in the organization because of the Koloko situation, and kept Koloko and brought in Quincy Olivari, who has been a real bright spot for the Lakers this preseason. Now, he is a guard, and the Lakers do have Jalen Hood-Schifino, and they do have Bronny James, who are both going to be, competing for minutes in the G League. Not so much for the actual Lakers, but they're oh, come on. That was a perfect pitch. But the Lakers are not anticipating Jalen Hood-Schifino nor Bronny James competing for minutes up with the main team this year, which means that Olivari and James and Jalen Hood-Schifino are all going to be fighting for minutes there for the South Bay Lakers. I guess technically they can play together. Teams in the G League are a little bit smaller. There's a lot more focus on shooting and spreading out the court in smaller lineups and stuff like that. So you can get away with playing two of those guys at any given moment, which is something that I would imagine they're going to be doing a lot of. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to watch that. All of that aside, I do want to send some flowers to Quincy Olivari, who was not considered likely to remain in the organization. Get him? Oh, they didn't get him. They didn't think that Olivari was going to leave the impression that he has. But they were very impressed by him as a player and as a person, and made the decision to keep him around. And I think it's the right call, even if it's at a position that the Lakers have a ton of people already at. Right? We already talked about the guys on the G League, but the Lakers, backcourt with the main team is also very jumbled. So, nothing is going to stop Rob Pelinka from a story nor a bucket getter. And in this case, the Lakers wound up keeping Olivari. Shouts to him on making good on that opportunity. Wish him, obviously, all of the luck down there in the G League this year. But if we see him, it's because something terrible happened with the main roster. All right, let's move on to the preseason that we saw and the offseason that was, and I guess, like, a final message to you guys heading into the season before the Lakers kick off on Tuesday, and then I think the plan right now is to have Harrison on tomorrow. We'll probably do like a bingo card or something like that. And then obviously Raj and I will be live after the game on Tuesday. But yeah, the thing I hope that, like, sticks coming off of this offseason is that, like, Lakers fans have to demand more of the people who are in charge here. Whether that's Rob, whether that's the Rambi, and obviously all of this accountability moves upward through the organization and eventually lands with Jeannie Buss. The way that the Lakers are run is not, frankly, okay. It is way behind the times in the NBA. They are still the thinnest organization in the league, and things continue to fall through the cracks because of those realities. And the longer that this continues, the more you know issues on the margins that the Lakers are going to have. Remember, when the Lakers originally replaced Jim Buss and Mitch Kupchak with uh, uh, Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka, the thinking was that the Lakers would have Magic on like the macro things and Rob on the micro things, and Rob would be there to make sure that nothing fell through the cracks. And to their credit, the in the brief time that they worked together, they did land LeBron. How much of that has to do with those guys specifically, and how much of it was LeBron seeing an opportunity in LA, um, is still very much up for debate. But they did bring in LeBron. They were eventually able to acquire Anthony Davis, and in that first year, when they still had plenty of NBA talent from the years prior, they were able to rip off a championship. They were able to rip off that run in the bubble to win a championship. And then, over time, I don't think it's a coincidence whatsoever that over time, and the longer that Rob has been able to operate as both vice president of basketball operations and general manager without any further help in the front office, not even a pro scouting team specifically, um, the worse things have kind of gotten. And you have a couple, think of think of the Lakers organization as like a young prospect. You have flashes occasionally when they look pretty good, but in aggregate, right, over the larger sample sizes, they've been pretty mediocre under Rob Pelinka, despite having LeBron and despite having Anthony Davis. And that, like, it's one thing to say that the league is smarter now and that the league is more competitive now than it was when we were growing up, when two players on your roster like LeBron and Anthony Davis just meant 55 wins and a trip to the finals. That's true. It is a more competitive and smarter league now than it was back when I was growing up. The thing is, though, there's a big gap between 55 wins and a trip to the finals every year that you have two top 10 players and just kind of trudging along and hoping to get like an 8 seed and avoid having to play an extra play-in game. And that's where the Lakers have basically been since the Russell Westbrook trade. And that doesn't mean that LeBron and AD don't have some culpability there. They do too. That played a big role in where the Lakers find themselves. But since then, they have purposely stepped back and let Rob cook. And the issue is Rob keeps cooking like TV dinners. and which sometimes can do the job, right? Like I enjoy a bowl of Campbell's soup on a gloomy day where I'm too lazy to make myself something that's a little bit healthier. That happens sometimes. But that's been basically the Lakers' diet since Rob took over. And my hope would be that, Lakers fans continue to voice their opinion and continue to voice their concern and let Jeannie know and let the front office know that mediocrity while you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis is not okay. And appearing okay with mediocrity also is not okay, because doing nothing in an offseason where you're coming off of a gentleman sweep in the first round, doing nothing, not adding a veteran, losing veterans, and not adding a veteran to replace them, should signal to people that the Lakers were okay with that. That's enough for them, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be enough for the fans. It shouldn't be enough for you. It for damn sure isn't enough for me. And the more excuses I keep seeing made in my mentions every time I point out some of these issues, the more I start to think that mediocrity and this ineptitude and this cronyism and this nepotism is normalized. And I don't want to sit here and watch this be normalized here with the Lakers. So all the best to the Lakers this season. All the best to all of us fans who are going to be watching this season. But if this season goes the way that I think it is going to go, it better get fucking loud with people telling the Lakers that this isn't enough. All right, let's go ahead and dive into your questions. I have questions from the Discord. I have questions from iTunes, which I should have pulled up earlier, but didn't because the Dodgers are intent on giving me a heart attack a lot, over and over and over again, just like a constant heart attack. So I'm going to go here to the show and I'm going to check the iTunes mailbag first because that is what I always promise you guys. And look at that. The first question I have here, actually, this is an interesting one. I saw this the other day and I meant to answer it and I forgot, but here it is. The real winners in this whole Bronny debacle is FanDuel Sportsbook because Bronny is plus 6,000 to get 10 assists, plus 3,100 to score 25 points, plus 1,100 to score 20 points in any regular season game this season. And so many bet it before it was officially announced he would be spending most of his time in the G League, even though we all knew that's where he would be. Well, for one thing, we can't protect bettors from doing dumb things. So that needs to be said first and foremost. What I will say, though, is that there are a lot of people who are benefiting from this Bronny thing, whether it is the fruits of content, whether it is the fruits of, take opportunities. You go on YouTube and you can Google Bronny James, and there's all kinds of all caps titles saying that Bronny is the worst thing to ever happen to blah, blah, blah. And that's bullshit, right? And that was part of my concern here was that I knew that Bronny was going to be, if he played up to the level that I think he is, which is not quite yet an NBA player, though he did end the preseason well, it needs to be said, scoring 17 points is cool. That it came in a 60-point loss makes it a little less cool. But yeah, with Bronny, you just knew that the take machine and the content machine was going to grind him out like some kind of hamburger patty. And it just felt ugly going into it. And that was my main concern here. I did not care about the nepotism. I don't think that some nepotism is better than other nepotism. I think all nepotism sucks. But I did not care that Bronny James was getting this opportunity because of LeBron. I don't love that he might play on opening night so that LeBron can get his photo op, but whatever, get it out of the way and let him go play in the G League. But the part of it that I did not, that I've thought and maintained all the way through that I knew was going to suck was the way that people were going to use Bronny to make points about LeBron or points about the NBA or points about whatever. That basically use him as a lightning rod to catch those takes. And it must suck to be him and see your name dragged through the mud for merely not being an NBA player right now when we all knew he wasn't going to be an NBA player. So the odding, the sports odds and people betting on this stuff and losing their money because they shouldn't have bet that stuff. Look, man, you make a dumb bet, you make a dumb bet. If you don't do the amounts of research necessary to put down those bets, if you didn't know going into the season that he was going to spend almost all of it, or ideally would be spending almost all of it in the G League, then that's on you. I feel bad for people, but I feel bad for people who lose a lot of money or obviously have gambling problems. But at the end of the day, if you're an adult and you're placing that bet, then, sorry. All right. Next question here. Also from the iTunes mailbag is from Lake Show Landon, who says, what does the possibility of Vanderbilt returning actually mean for the Lakers? How does he impact the team? And where does he fit into the rotation? There are plenty of very, very smart people. Did he do it? Did T.O. do it? Did he do it? Oh, it's just a single. Oh man, you got to run harder, dude. Anyway, there are plenty of smart people who actually think Vanderbilt should actually start in Rui's place because the Lakers have enough offense, and Vanderbilt could provide some of the little things that Rui doesn't necessarily do all that well. Though it needs to be pointed out that Rui has been better rebounding the ball. So like that's one possibility. I think he would almost immediately become like a sixth or seventh man, and play a lot because the Lakers need his defense on the perimeter and on the interior and in the hustle plays and stuff like that. Offensive rebounding was a way that he was really impacting the games that he played in last year. The Lakers can use that stuff. So if he is healthy, if he gets healthy and gets his way into the rotation, he'll have a big spot there. And the Lakers would immediately he essentially, means that you don't have to play Cam Reddish ever. And in that regard, that's almost enough by itself. So Vanderbilt hopefully is going to get better. We got that weird update that wasn't really an update from Reddick about him hoping to, the start of the season was still their previous goal. He didn't suffer any setbacks, but now he's going to be evaluated after the start of the season with, again, not suffering a setback. Really weird situation there. People are still talking about it in really high voices, which makes me nervous. And hopefully Vando can get healthy sooner rather than later. All right, let's go to Twitter for a couple questions. We'll go here to Lakers Supply asking, Shams at McMenamin said the Lakers are still optimistic about Koloko, but you said yesterday there's growing concern. Any clarity? Look, I just talked about it with Vanderbilt, right? Don't believe any of this, even reported optimism, until those guys are actually on the court. Again, there were people in the organization I was speaking to who thought that, let's go. Look at you. Dodgers take the lead. Hustle, 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 hustle. There it is. 2-1 Dodgers. But there were people who I spoke to who have previously given me good information, who thought that Castleton would be the one waived because of the uncertainty with Christian Koloko. And Shams and Dave wrote over the weekend that this would be, figured out in short order or soon or whatever phrasing that they used. And I don't know what soon means, because if you waive a player, like essentially the Lakers bringing Koloko into their organization so far has cost them Blake Hinson and Colin Castleton. And now, how good either of those guys are going to be, I don't know. I legitimately don't know. I have pretty good confidence that if there is an organization for Hinson to go to and maximize his abilities as a shooter, Golden State's a pretty good one, and I believe that's where he still is. Castleton, we'll see what his market looks like here, and we'll see, where he winds up on the other side of this. If he indeed is gone, because the Lakers don't have a ton of depth at center, obviously. His team might be smart to wait this out a little bit, and just see, hey, what's going on here with Koloko? Is he actually going to get signed? He might return to the Lakers on just a G League contract, depending on the offers that he gets elsewhere. And then, if Koloko isn't cleared, then Castleton can just be reconverted back to a two-way. So that's another way that this all can play out. But as far as the differences in reporting there, it just kind of depends on who people talk to. And I will never, Dave does great work. Shams does great work. I'm not going to say that they are definitely wrong and I am definitely right. it's happened before, but I'm not definitely saying that it's definitely happening here. I just heard what I heard and reported what I reported, and we'll see what happens here with Koloko. Best case scenario is that I'm wrong. Like, best case scenario is that, like, Koloko is indeed cleared in short order, and everybody can kind of move forward here. And the Lakers do have an NBA caliber player on a two-way contract, or a player we saw a year ago play actual NBA minutes on a two-way contract. But that, explanation for why there might be a difference in my story versus others. Um, like, look, I don't talk to Rob Pelinka. I'm going to say that. Like, he's not somebody who I've ever had a conversation with. I think that's going to change this year, but I've never had a conversation with Rob Pelinka. And he is the one a month ago who told reporters he was confident Koloko was going to be cleared and ready to go, during training camp and heading into the season. That hasn't happened, right? Unless it happens like tomorrow, then he still technically isn't right, but he would have, Koloko will be available for the beginning of the season. The G League also starts a couple weeks after the NBA season starts. So maybe that's all that matters to the Lakers here, because that's where Koloko will be playing most of his minutes. But I don't think this is a riskless move, continuing to wait on Koloko, as now it has cost the Lakers Blake Hinson and Colin Castleton. So we'll see where all of this goes. All right. Sebastian Berner writes, "Hi, Anthony. How do other teams see JHS and Lewis in trade talks? Are they negative assets?" Yes. Well, no. Yes and no, to quote the philosopher Darius Soriano. Yes, because neither are NBA players or appear to be heading toward being NBA players kind of anytime soon. No, because they are both very young and they had pedigree at one point, and players with pedigree tend to stick around a little bit, even if the returns are not so great, right? Cam Reddish is on his like umpteenth team at this point. And the other thing too is that in the case of Jalen Hood-Schifino, and I'd have to look at Maxwell Lewis's contract. In at least Jalen Hood-Schifino's case, there's a team option on the other side of the season. So if a team acquires Jalen and it's not looking good, that team can waive him and get some financial flexibility there. And if they do bring him in and he does develop better than he has so far as with the Lakers, then cool, you got a former first round pick to look like a first round pick again. So in a weird way, it's kind of a win-win. There's no, like, if you acquire Jalen Hood-Schifino, there's almost no downside. The downside is that, like, he continues to not look very good. And then at the end of the season, you cut ties anyway, because you're probably getting him with draft compensation and another player for whatever it is that you sent out. And so, like, I would say, short answer, yes, but only slightly. Like, Gabe Vincent is much more a negative asset right now than Jalen Hood-Schifino. The issue is that, like, Jalen Hood-Schifino only a year ago was an extremely valuable asset back when he was just a first round pick, or a couple of years ago when he, before he was drafted. That asset was previously very valuable, and now it's like neutral at best. So, you could see kind of the issues when you have a bad draft in the way that the Lakers did when they drafted JHS and when they drafted Lewis. Let's look really quickly here at the he just got cut. My bad, everybody. So Blake Hinson is no longer with Golden State. So we'll see where he goes. So maybe he's back. I don't know. Like I said, like, the stakes, here's the thing. the stakes with any of those guys are really, really low, right? Like the stakes on any of those players are extremely low because you're talking about, in the case of Christian Coloco, a two-way player. In the case of Colin Castleton, a two-way player. In the case of Blake Hinson, a now unemployed player. So, like, the stakes here are not exactly like this is the difference between making the World Series and not. I said World Series on purpose because that's on over there. It and frankly, like it probably won't wind up mattering, in all honesty, in the grand scheme of things. It does kind of speak to yet another instance of potential asset mismanagement, which is like, a bit of a trend at this point, as I just talked about with JHS, right? Where before he was drafted, when it was just a first round pick, you look at the kinds of players that the Lakers could have gotten with that first round pick. And now you compare that to the types of players that the Lakers, would get if they put just Jalen Hood-Schifino out on the market, which like they wouldn't get anybody. And you can see the impact on that poor asset management there. And that's where like that series of decisions hurts a lot more than whatever happens here with Christian Coloco and with Blake Hinson and with Colin Castleton or even Quincy Olivari. But as it stands right now, like it's just kind of is added to a list, a rather long list of poor asset management that has put the Lakers in some precarious spots. All right, let's check Discord. A quick note on Discord, if you guys could do me a favor, because I have this mailbag area, and it became like a conversation, a place for conversation, and it makes it difficult to find the actual questions. So I'll go really, really quickly here and get out of here because, like, basically right after I record this, I will be in the Basketball Passport feed, that is youtube.com/@basketballpassport with Lee previewing the NBA season on a more national and broader spectrum. Going to talk about Olivari though. So Toon Crazy asks here, what under the radar move do you see happening? Well, if I knew about it, and especially if I said it, would it continue to be under the radar? Probably not. The thing is, like, and I've talked about this in the past, essentially, and I'm not going to give away any like actual sources here, but I will speak a little bit about process and information flow. So, where things tend to start for me is, all right, what makes sense for the Lakers to do? I'll also factor in things that Rob has done in the past, the types of players that he prioritizes, because he is the final decision maker on this roster or with the roster. And from there, I will start talking to people that I know that are close to the Lakers. And then I'll also talk to people around the league, because if the Lakers are having any conversations with teams around the league, there's somebody on the other end of that phone, right? So I'll try to suss out like types of conversations that the Lakers are having and on with other teams, from league sources, and then I'll also, try to figure out what conversations might be coming next before they happen with these people, and I get that information secondhand, and then I jumble it up and I whittle it down to the things that are possible, how those conversations might be going, priorities that the Lakers have that still tend to make sense. And then, through all of these conversations and with all of that analysis and with all of that information, I try to relay the stuff that I think is going to impact you, right? So as an example, this Olivari thing happens over the weekend. And I knew that, the Lakers have some deadlines looming, and all of these teams have some deadlines looming. So, and then I also know that they love Olivari. So I started asking around, like, hey, seems to make sense that the Lakers are probably going to uh, try to keep or do whatever they can to keep Olivari. He's a very popular player now with the fan base and all that stuff, and he's rather good at basketball. And that's where I started talking. And then I also was trying to figure out like what Olivari's market would be if the Lakers let him go. How quickly would he get swooped up if he was waived or whatever. And man, my heart just stopped there because Kasperius almost just gave up a bomb. But so I try to figure out like what his market might be, and then I try to talk to the Lakers people about it, and then I also asked like how like that had to be kind of embarrassing losing by 60 to the Warriors like that and getting treated like a third tier EuroLeague team. And I again got a whole bunch of information, unfortunately, while I was at my daughter's soccer game, and then tried to very, very quickly go through all of that stuff, race home after lunch, continue to have those conversations, write it up as quickly as I can, um, and then make sure when I fired off that tweet that it was as informed as it could possibly be, and that's how we arrived where we arrived. So, yeah, when it comes to like under the radar stuff, Rob at this point, because Woj is no longer in the picture, I would imagine the only few people that Rob kind of talks to directly might be a beat reporter here and there, with the Lakers beat. Might be Shams, now that Shams has kind of taken over Woj's role. But like the number of people that he talks to directly and sends the group text out or the actual text out in the way that it was with Woj, very, very few people. And he does that on purpose. And then, obviously there are other people in the organization who talk to other people and agents and stuff that get involved as well. And there's just like this information flow, but like the stuff that the Lakers want to keep under the radar, Rob can keep under the radar, because he has, really kind of boiled that conversation, that group of people he's going to have that conversation with, down to very, very few. So in terms of the under the radar moves that I can see coming, like there aren't right now. All right. So Tune Go Crazy also wrote in, why hasn't Braun and AD put any pressure on Genie to fire Rob? Are they cool with just wasting away each season? I have theories on that. Not that I'm going to share quite yet, because I don't want to piss off the wrong people now that I represent a company too. But I think it has a lot to do with agreements in place when LeBron came to LA in the first place. You look at the types of contracts that LeBron signed, and you look at, like he has made noise in the past, like that has happened. But you look at how LeBron has done things in LA compared to how he did things previously, and you look at some of the treatment that the Laker has given him also that might be a little different than his previous stops. And I don't think it's like that hard to see some potential agreements that were put in place that like aren't on the contract or might be on the contract but not reported about. I do like this season is going to be interesting because the Lakers have a very difficult opening to the season. This roster is very suspect as it's currently constructed. And if things go south quickly and LeBron is still playing at a high level, I do think that, you might start to, and especially if like Anthony Davis is playing at a really high level, the way that he has in preseason, I do think at that point you might start to hear some grumblings that you maybe haven't heard in the past, because like, let's be honest, LeBron isn't going to be a Laker for that much longer, right? We're talking a couple to a few years at longest, probably. So he might be nearing the end of that rope, looking at the end of his career, that NBA mortality, and he might not be all that as comfortable right now or then as he is right now, with the possibility that like his times at competing for championships is over. That's going to be really interesting to watch. All right. So I think that's going to do it here for this episode, because I do have some pre-show stuff to get to with Lee. So yeah, I don't see any super comments in there, and I have been talking here for 40 minutes. And also this Dodgers game is just the most painful. So until next time, so the plan right now, right? And I will have this further sussed out hopefully soon. I would imagine as soon as tomorrow. But the plan right now is for Raj to be on post games that he can. Same Monday through Friday schedule that has always existed. And Harrison is going to be with us twice a month, the way that he has been since I left Vox. We'll probably have some other regular guests as well over the course of the season, not just like the friends of the show, but like actual weekly or bi-weekly guests that I'm still ironing out agreements with as well. And yeah, it is a very exciting season. I told you guys already about Clutch Points. I've already written 4 things for Clutch Points right now. Hope you guys check that out. That workout. My Substack, I believe I have. If I haven't yet, I will remove all of the paywalls to all of those pieces, so you can check that out too. If you want to continue to support the lounge and stuff like that, then cool. That money just gets reinvested back into back end stuff or agreements with other people who appear regularly here and all of that good stuff. All that help is very much appreciated. So if you want to keep doing that, cool, but it will not be necessary for the stuff that I write for Substack from here on out. And then yeah, for for today and for this off season and for this preseason, I'm Anthony Irwin saying have a great rest of your day, make somebody else's, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one, everybody.